Rain glazed South Wacker Drive in a cold silver sheen, blurring the line between the city's glass towers and the cracked pavement beneath them. Inside a narrow diner wedged between steel and shadow, Kate Jenkins moved with quiet precision, refilling mugs, wiping counters, pretending she didn't feel the weight pressing on her chest. Her blonde hair was twisted into a careless knot, wisps falling loose against a face too young to look that tired. Hospital bills folded in her locker. Rent overdue. Pride swallowed daily with every forced smile. Then the door chimed. Conversation thinned. A black SUV idled at the curb like a warning. A little girl stepped in first, navy coat immaculate, eyes hollow and far too knowing. Two men followed, dressed in dark suits cut sharp enough to signal money and menace in the same breath. The regulars dropped their gazes. Chicago understood hierarchy. Chicago understood fear. Kate didn't. She set a plate down in front of the child, strawberries bright against warm pancakes. You deserve something sweet, she said softly. One of the men leaned back, voice low and edged with threat. Stay in your lane, sweetheart. Kate met his stare without blinking. Not when a child's involved. The air tightened. In a city ruled by power and silence, a waitress had just chosen defiance over survival, and somewhere beyond that rain-streaked glass, someone far more dangerous was about to notice. If stories where ordinary courage collides with extraordinary power draw you in, like this video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. The coffee cup didn't just fall, it exploded. Porcelain hit tile, splintering into sharp white fragments that skidded beneath tables. The sound sliced through the low murmur of the diner, louder than the rain outside, louder than the hum of neon, louder than the fear everyone pretended not to feel. Bella's chair screeched backward as the man in the suit jerked her arm across the booth. You think this is funny? He snarled, fingers digging into the fragile bone of her wrist. The child made no sound. That silence was heavier than any scream. It wasn't shock. It wasn't confusion. It was recognition. Like she had learned that crying made things worse. Kate felt something shift inside her. Not panic, not even anger at first, but clarity. A sharp, cold awareness that if she stayed behind the counter like everyone else, something inside her would never come back. Jerry muttered under his breath. Don't. The truckers at the counter stared into their coffee like it might offer absolution. The man tightened his grip again. Bella's knuckles turned white. Kate stepped forward. Each step felt deliberate, like crossing invisible territory no one else dared to touch. Let her go, she said. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just certain. The man turned his head slowly, eyes narrowing with the casual cruelty of someone accustomed to obedience. You must be new, he replied, voice low and edged with mockery. Because nobody talks to me like that. Kate didn't look away. I just did. A ripple passed through the room. Not movement, not yet, but attention. The kind that builds before something irreversible happens. The man leaned back slightly, studying her the way men like him always did. Assessing, dismissing, categorizing. Waitress, broke, harmless. You want to keep your job, he asked. Kate glanced at Bella's wrist, already reddening under his hand. This isn't about my job. His mouth curved into something that wasn't a smile. You have no idea who you're interfering with. I have a pretty clear idea of what you're doing. For a moment, it looked like he might laugh it off. Instead, his grip tightened again, harder this time because power when challenged often reacts by proving itself. Bella flinched. That was enough. Kate reached for the coffee pot beside her without breaking eye contact. Steam curled upward between them like a warning flare. Let go, she said again, quieter than before. The man glanced at the pot, then back at her. You wouldn't. Her hand tilted slightly. A thin ribbon of coffee spilled onto the table, sizzling against the plastic surface. The diner held its breath. I absolutely would. There was no tremor in her voice. That unsettled him more than the threat. Because men like him were fluent in fear. They were less comfortable with resolve. His jaw flexed. He could overpower her. Everyone in the room knew it. He could drag her outside, break her arm, make an example. But there were witnesses now. Phones subtly lifted. Eyes no longer lowered. The dynamic had shifted. Slowly, deliberately. He released Bella's wrist. The red imprint of his fingers remained like a brand. He stood, smoothing his jacket as if restoring order to something he believed he still controlled. "You just made a mistake," he said, voice stripped of humor. Kate placed the coffee pot back down with calm precision. "If protecting her is a mistake," she replied, "I'll live with it." He stared at her for one long, silent second. Then he stepped outside. Through the rain-streaked glass, Kate saw him pull out his phone. Saw the change in his posture. Saw the way he glanced back at the diner. Not with embarrassment. With promise. Jerry rushed over, face pale. "Kate, do you know who that is?" "No," she answered. "That's not some random thug. He works for people you don't cross." Kate crouched beside Bella instead of responding. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Bella nodded, but her fingers trembled as she pulled her sleeve down over the marks. Kate's voice lowered further. "He doesn't get to touch you like that. Not here." Bella looked at her differently then. Not just with gratitude. With disbelief. As if kindness had become so rare it felt suspicious. Outside, headlights cut through the rain. One SUV. Then another. Then a third. They didn't park casually. They surrounded the curb. The man who had hurt Bella stepped backward instinctively. The driver's door of the lead SUV opened. And the energy outside changed. The men who stepped out weren't loud. They were efficient. The rain didn't seem to touch the man who followed them. Controlled. Impeccably dressed. His coat fell perfectly despite the wind. A faint scar traced through his eyebrow. A thin white line against olive skin. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He walked toward the guard like inevitability. Kate couldn't hear what was said through the glass. She didn't need to. The guard dropped to his knees within seconds. Two larger men seized him and dragged him toward the third SUV as he pleaded. The tall man turned his gaze toward the diner. Toward her. The bell above the door chimed again. This time no one breathed. He entered as if the room belonged to him. His eyes found Bella first. Then the red marks on her wrist. Then Kate. "You," he said. One word. Measured. "You threatened my employee." Kate rose slowly. He was hurting her. The man's expression did not flicker. "You don't know the structure you interfered with." "I don't need to know the structure," she replied. "I saw what he was doing." The air between them tightened. His presence was different from the guard's. The guard had been aggression. This was authority. Bella slid out of the booth. She hesitated, then stepped closer to him. "Daddy." The word didn't tremble. Carried weight. The man's composure shifted almost imperceptibly. He placed one hand on her shoulder, not possessive, protective. Then he looked back at Kate. "She hasn't spoken in 11 months, he said quietly. The diner felt smaller. "And today she spoke." Kate swallowed. "She deserves better," she said softer now. Something unreadable moved behind his eyes. "Perhaps," he replied. Outside, the SUVs idled like waiting verdicts. Inside, a line had been crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. And Kate understood with sudden clarity that the man standing in front of her wasn't just someone powerful. He was someone who could change her life. For better. Or destroy it completely. The rain kept falling. But the storm had already begun. The diner never truly exhaled after he spoke. Dante Ricci didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The quiet around him felt engineered, like even sound understood hierarchy. Rain tapped against the windows in a steady rhythm. But inside, nothing moved unless he allowed it. Bella remained close to his side. Small fingers curled into the fabric of his coat. Kate noticed the difference immediately. The child wasn't shrinking from him the way she had from the guard. She was steady. Grounded. Dante's gaze returned to Kate, slower this time, more analytical. You intervened without knowing the consequences, he said. I knew enough, she answered. His eyes flicked briefly to the shattered porcelain still scattered across the floor, then back to her. Courage, he murmured almost to himself. Or recklessness. Call it whatever you want. Jerry cleared his throat nervously behind the counter. Mr. Ricci, sir, she didn't mean any disrespect. Dante lifted one hand slightly. Jerry stopped mid-sentence. The control was subtle. Total. Dante shifted his attention fully to Kate. You paid for her strawberries, he said. It wasn't a question. Kate felt heat rise to her face. That's not your concern. On the contrary, he replied. It is entirely my concern. Bella glanced between them, her eyes sharper now, listening. You work double shifts, Dante continued calmly. You send money to St. Jude's every Friday. Your mother's oncology balance is past due. Insurance denied the latest treatment cycle. Kate's breath caught. The room tilted slightly, though she kept her posture firm. How do you know that? He held her gaze. I make it my business to know things. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Outside, one of the SUVs adjusted position slightly, engine humming low. Dante crouched to Bella's level. Go wait in the car, he said gently. Bella hesitated. Her eyes darted to Kate. Dante followed her gaze. She'll be fine, he added. Bella moved slowly toward the door, glancing back twice before stepping outside into the rain where a bodyguard immediately opened an umbrella over her. The door closed. Now it was just them. Dante straightened. You have spirit, he said. That's rare. It's also dangerous. Kate folded her arms. If you're here to threaten me, just do it. A faint curve touched his mouth. Not amusement. Recognition. I'm here to offer you something. I'm not interested. You should hear it first. Silence stretched. Jerry busied himself pretending to wipe down a clean counter, his ears straining. Dante stepped closer, lowering his voice. My daughter has not trusted anyone outside our home since her mother died. The shift in tone was subtle but real. She doesn't speak to teachers. She doesn't speak to therapists. She doesn't speak to staff. Yet she spoke here. Kate's guard didn't drop, but it wavered. She was safe here, Kate said. No, Dante corrected softly. She was safe with you. That landed harder than she expected. He reached into his coat. Kate stiffened instinctively. Instead of a weapon, he withdrew a slim black envelope and placed it on the counter between them. You will come work for me. She didn't touch it. I don't work for men like you. You don't know what kind of man I am. I know enough. Do you? His eyes sharpened slightly. You saw one of my employees step out of line. You saw me correct that line. Correct. Kate's voice edged. You had him dragged away. And you believe I should reward cruelty. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? She struggled for a precise answer and found none that didn't sound naive. Dante didn't press further. Instead, he opened the envelope himself and slid a single sheet of paper across the counter. It wasn't a contract. It was a hospital statement. Her mother's name printed at the top. Balance due. $142,318.47. Kate's vision narrowed. I can clear this today, Dante said evenly. Not as a loan. Not as leverage. As compensation. For what? For becoming my daughter's companion. Her stability. Her bridge back to the world. The audacity of it stunned her. You can't just buy people. I'm not buying you. It feels like you are. He studied her carefully. If I wanted to buy you, he said quietly, I wouldn't be standing here explaining myself. That unsettled her more than anger would have. And if I refuse, she asked. He didn't hesitate. You return to your current life. I withdraw the offer. Nothing more. Sounded simple. Too simple. You expect me to believe that? He met her eyes directly. I don't expect anything from you. Rain intensified briefly against the glass, then softened again. Kate's mind raced, but her face remained controlled. You'd trust a stranger with your daughter, she pressed. I trust my daughter's instincts, he replied. She chose you. She chose pancakes. She chose you. The distinction lingered between them. Jerry finally spoke again, voice trembling. Kate, think about your mom. That hit. Dante didn't gloat, didn't push. He simply waited. Power, she realized, wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was patient. You'd move me into your house, she said slowly. Yes. Under your rules. Yes. And if I decide I don't like those rules once I'm there? A flicker of something unreadable passed through his expression. Then you leave. You make it sound voluntary. It is. She almost laughed. You're not used to being told no, are you? No. At least he was honest. Outside, Bella pressed her hand against the window, watching. Kate looked at her. Not at the SUVs. Not at the bodyguards. The little girl. You said she hasn't spoken in 11 months, Kate said quietly. Yes. And you think I can fix that? I think you already started. The weight of that responsibility settled on her shoulders before she could reject it. Dante slid the hospital statement back into the envelope and placed it firmly in her hand. Your mother will be transferred to a private oncology suite within the hour if you say yes. The words were measured. No flourish. No emotional manipulation. Just fact. And if I say no? He held her gaze for a long moment. Then nothing changes. That was the part that scared her most. 'Cause he meant it. No retaliation. No punishment. Just indifference. And indifference would leave her exactly where she was. Drowning quietly. She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, the diner looked smaller than it had 10 minutes ago. I need my coat, she said. Dante nodded once. Jerry exhaled shakily, unsure whether he had just witnessed salvation or catastrophe. As Kate stepped toward the door, Dante spoke again. One more thing. He paused. This is not a fairy tale. I figured. If you step into my world, it will test you. She didn't turn around. So has mine. The rain hit her face the second she stepped outside. Bella's eyes lit up when she saw her. Not with excitement. With relief. That decided it. Kate opened the SUV door and slid inside beside the child. Dante entered from the other side. The door shut. Sealed. The city blurred past as the vehicle pulled away from the curb. Kate didn't look back at the diner. Because something told her she wouldn't be returning to that version of herself again. And somewhere behind the tinted glass, unseen by her, another pair of eyes had already begun to calculate what her arrival would mean. The road stretched forward. And it was leading somewhere far more complicated than she understood. The SUV doors sealed with a muted thud, shutting out the city like a lid closing over boiling water. Inside, the air carried leather and restraint. No music. No idle conversation. Just the low vibration of the engine and the faint rhythm of rain sliding across tinted glass. Kate sat upright, hands folded in her lap to keep them from betraying her nerves. Bella leaned closer almost immediately, small shoulder pressing against her arm as though proximity alone could anchor her. Dante watched the road ahead. Not stiff. Not distracted. Focused. Chicago's skyline receded in the side mirror. Steel towers fading into mist. They passed neighborhoods Kate knew too well. Cracked sidewalks, corner stores with flickering signs, the overpass near her apartment where the train rattled loud enough to shake dishes in the cabinets. They didn't take that exit. They kept driving north. The buildings thinned. The streets widened. Trees appeared where concrete once dominated. Kate finally broke the silence. How long? Dante didn't look at her. Until we arrive. That's not what I meant. He understood anyway. As long as you choose to stay. Bella's fingers curled into the fabric of Kate's sleeve again. The SUV turned through iron gates that parted without hesitation. Armed guards nodded, stepping aside with professional precision. The vehicle rolled forward along a winding drive lined with mature oaks that arched overhead like something out of a different century. When the estate came into view, Kate's breath slowed. It wasn't flashy. It was imposing. Stone walls, tall windows reflecting gray sky. A structure designed less for comfort and more for permanence. The SUV stopped beneath a covered portico. A driver stepped out to open Bella's door first. Bella hesitated before exiting. She looked at Kate, waiting. Kate stepped out too. Cold air met her skin, sharper here than downtown. Cleaner, quieter. Dante adjusted his cuffs as if this place simply extended from him. "Welcome," he said. It didn't sound like hospitality. Sounded like initiation. Inside, the foyer swallowed sound. Marble floors stretched beneath their feet. A chandelier cast pale light downward, illuminating dark wood paneling and oil portraits lining the walls. Every detail whispered history and authority. Bella moved quickly now, ascending a curved staircase without a word. Dante gestured for Kate to follow him instead. They walked down a long corridor where footsteps echoed in measured rhythm. The house felt alive in a strange way. Not warm, not welcoming, but alert. He opened double doors at the end of the hall. Library. Floor-to-ceiling shelves. A massive desk carved from dark wood. Leather chairs positioned with intention. The scent of old paper and something sharper beneath it. "Sit," Dante instructed. Kate remained standing for a second longer than necessary before taking the chair opposite him. He didn't sit. He walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. "There are boundaries," he began. "I assumed. You will have a room in the East Wing, adjacent to Bella's. That wing is yours and hers. The West Wing is mine. You will not enter it. And if I do, you won't." That certainty unsettled her. "There are security protocols," he continued. "You will not leave the property without clearance. You will be issued a secure phone. Your previous number will be deactivated." Kate's jaw tightened. "That's isolation. That's protection. For who? For both of you." She studied him carefully. "This house feels more like a fortress than a home." "It is both." He turned then, eyes direct. "You are here for Bella. Not for my business. Not for my staff. Not for my past." The final word lingered. "And if your past comes knocking?" she asked. His expression didn't change. "It already has." Silence stretched between them. A knock at the door. An older woman entered, posture rigid, gaze sharp. "Mrs. Weaver," Dante said. "This is Kate. She will be staying in the East Wing." Mrs. Weaver's assessment was immediate and unfiltered. "Of course," she replied, tone polite but edged. Kate stood. "Bella is asking for her," Mrs. Weaver added. Dante gave a slight nod. Kate followed the housekeeper up the staircase. The East Wing contrasted the rest of the house subtly. Softer lighting, lighter walls, a deliberate attempt at warmth. Mrs. Weaver opened a door. Kate stepped inside. The room was larger than her entire apartment. Cream walls. A four-poster bed draped in soft fabric. A walk-in closet stocked with clothing in her size. Understated, high-quality, neutral tones. It was unsettling. "You'll find everything you need," Mrs. Weaver said crisply. "Dinner is at 7. Mr. Ricci does not tolerate tardiness." "I'm not staff," Kate replied evenly. Mrs. Weaver's lips pressed thinly. "We'll see." The door closed behind her. Kate exhaled slowly. She changed into one of the sweaters left in the closet, soft cashmere replacing grease-stained cotton. The fabric felt foreign against her skin. She found Bella in a bedroom at the end of the hall. The child sat by the window, knees pulled to her chest, watching clouds drift low over the estate grounds. When Bella noticed her, she didn't smile, but she moved closer. Kate sat beside her. "Big place," she said gently. Bella nodded. You don't have to talk, Kate added. We can just sit. Bella leaned her head against Kate's shoulder. Minutes passed. Not awkward. Not forced. Just shared. Dinner was brought upstairs on silver trays. Dante didn't join them. Bella barely touched her food until Kate picked up a fork and took a small bite from her own plate first. Then Bella followed. Later, when bedtime approached, a new tension surfaced. Bella froze at the sight of the bed. Her breathing quickened. It's okay, Kate murmured. I'm right next door. Bella shook her head rapidly and grabbed Kate's hand. Her grip was urgent. You want me to stay? Kate asked. Bella nodded. Kate hesitated only briefly before climbing onto the bed beside her. Bella curled against her immediately, clutching the fabric of her sweater. Within minutes, the child's breathing steadied. But Kate didn't sleep. The house felt too still, too quiet. Around 2 a.m, thirst drove her from the room. The hallway lights were dim, casting long shadows across polished floors. She found a small kitchenette at the end of the corridor. As she poured water, she noticed a narrow door slightly ajar across the hall. Curiosity pressed against caution. She stepped closer. Inside, a faint green glow illuminated the darkness. 4 monitors, live feeds, the front gate, the driveway, the hallway outside Bella's room. Her bedroom. Her empty bed displayed in silent clarity. Kate's stomach tightened. She scanned the room further. On the wall beside the monitors, a crayon drawing taped carefully at eye level. A car engulfed in orange flame. A woman beside it. A tall figure dressed in black. A speech bubble scrawled above him. Silence. Footsteps behind her. She turned sharply. Dante stood in the doorway, expression unreadable. I told you there were boundaries, he said quietly. The calm in his voice was more unsettling than anger. Kate gestured toward the monitors. You watch everything. I have to. Even me. Yes. The honesty landed like a blade. That's not protection, she said. That's control. His jaw flexed slightly. Look closer, he instructed, stepping into the room. He pointed to the drawing. Focus on the hand. Kate leaned in. On the drawn figure's finger. A purple ring. Amethyst. I don't wear jewelry, Dante said evenly, lifting his bare hands into the glow of the screens. The man who does betrayed me. The air shifted. My wife was killed in a car bombing, he continued. It was meant for me. Kate's voice softened. Bella was there. Yes. And she thinks the man in black told her to stay silent. Dante's expression darkened, not with anger at her, but at something older. He did. The weight of that truth pressed heavily between them. There's a traitor in this house, he said. Kate looked back at the monitors. At the constant surveillance. You're not watching out of paranoia, she murmured. I'm hunting. And now you understand why the rules exist. She did. But understanding didn't make it comfortable. Dante stepped closer, lowering his voice. She trusts you. Kate met his gaze. Then don't make me regret stepping into this. He studied her for a long moment. Go back to bed, he said finally. Lock your door. As she left the surveillance room, the green glow lingered behind her like a warning. The house wasn't just guarded. It was waiting. And somewhere within its walls, someone already knew she had seen too much. Morning didn't arrive gently at Highwood Manor. It pressed against the windows in a muted gray wash, as if the sky itself were holding its breath. Kate hadn't slept more than a few scattered minutes. Every sound had felt amplified. Distant footsteps, a door closing somewhere down the hall, the faint hum of the security system cycling through its checks. Bella stirred beside her just after dawn. Not abruptly, slowly, carefully, like waking was something she measured before committing to it. Kate propped herself up on one elbow. Hey, she whispered. Bella blinked once, then studied her face as though confirming she hadn't disappeared overnight. I'm still here, Kate said gently. Bella didn't smile. But she didn't pull away either. That mattered. By mid-morning, the estate felt deceptively calm. Staff moved with quiet efficiency. Silver trays passed through corridors. Doors opened and shut with disciplined subtlety. Nothing outwardly suggested tension, but Kate felt it. The awareness from the surveillance room hadn't left her. Someone inside these walls had helped orchestrate a bombing. Someone walked these polished floors carrying betrayal in their pocket like a spare key. Bella sat beside her in the sunroom, fingers pressing into damp soil as they transplanted small succulents into new ceramic pots. The room was enclosed in glass. Sunlight filtered through drifting clouds, casting fractured patterns across the marble floor. It looked peaceful. It wasn't. "You like this?" Kate asked softly, guiding Bella's hands around the base of a plant. Bella nodded faintly. "Plants don't rush," Kate continued. "They take their time. They grow when they're ready." Bella's fingers paused, then resumed. Kate hesitated before speaking again. "The bad man from the drawing. Did he wear something special?" Bella stilled. Her eyes flicked toward the doorway. Kate followed her gaze instinctively. "Me." Still, Bella leaned closer and used a thin wooden stick to draw into the soil. Not a ring this time. A shape inside a circle. Wings. Sharp. Angular. Hawk. Kate memorized every line. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Bella wiped the soil flat instantly. Elias Vance stepped into the sunroom with a polite smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Everything all right?" he asked smoothly. His voice carried that practiced calm of someone accustomed to being trusted. Kate straightened slightly. "We're fine." He moved closer, glancing at the plants. "My grandmother loved gardening," he said conversationally. "Said it taught patience." Bella shrank subtly at the sound of his voice. It was small, almost imperceptible, but Kate noticed. Elias reached down, adjusting one of the pots. His sleeve shifted. Kate's breath slowed deliberately. On his forearm, partially concealed beneath the cuff, ink stretched in dark detail. Hawk. Not identical to Bella's drawing, but close enough to make her skin prickle. Elias saw her looking. He didn't glance at his arm. He glanced at Bella, then at the soil. His smile thinned. "Smart kid," he said quietly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Kate's voice remained steady. "What do you mean?" Elias straightened, brushing soil from his fingers. "Kids see more than we think." Bella moved closer to Kate. Protective instinct surged without warning. Elias stepped back slightly, radio clipped at his belt catching the light. For a brief moment, the polite facade slipped. His eyes hardened. Then he pressed two fingers subtly against the earpiece. "Status check," he murmured. The response crackled too faintly for Kate to make out. But she saw the shift, the calculation. "Is something wrong?" she asked evenly. Elias's smile returned, but it was different now. "Harper. Just routine." Bella's fingers gripped Kate's sweater tightly. The pressure wasn't fear. It was warning. Kate's pulse quickened. And then it happened. Distant pop. Not loud, but wrong. Another. Then shouting from somewhere deeper in the estate. Elias didn't flinch. He reached calmly for the radio. "Protocol 0, he said. The words hit like ice water. Alarms erupted seconds later, piercing and shrill. The calm facade shattered. Elias moved fast. Not toward the sound. Toward Bella. Kate reacted before thought could catch up. She shoved the nearest ceramic pot into his path. It struck his shoulder, knocking him half a step off balance. "Run!" she shouted at Bella. Bella hesitated, just a heartbeat, then bolted toward the hallway. Elias lunged. Kate grabbed his arm with everything she had. He was stronger, faster, trained, but she was desperate. He backhanded her hard enough to send her into the glass wall. Pain flared across her cheek, but she didn't fall. "You should have stayed quiet," he said flatly. Gunfire erupted from the west wing. "Bill now." Blows. The illusion of safety disintegrated completely. Elias reached inside his jacket. Kate saw the flash of a suppressed pistol. She moved without thinking, slamming her body into his midsection. They crashed into the potting table, soil scattering across marble. The radio at his belt crackled. Package secured. Not yet, Elias snapped. That word. Package. He meant Bella. Kate's mind sharpened instantly. She swung blindly, fingers catching the radio and ripping it free before hurling it across the room. It shattered against the wall. Elias cursed under his breath and shoved her aside violently. She hit the floor, breath knocked from her lungs. He stepped toward the hallway. Kate forced herself upright, ignoring the dizziness. "Bella!" she screamed. More gunfire echoed from upstairs. Loyal guards clashing with traitors. The house was splitting open. Elias didn't run. He walked, controlled, certain. Kate's gaze darted around the room. A heavy brass candlestick sat on a side table near the doorway. She grabbed it. The weight steadied her. She followed him into the corridor. Smoke was already curling from somewhere down the hall. Staff were screaming. Doors slammed. The mansion that had felt like stone and permanence now felt fragile. Suppose. Elias moved toward the east staircase. Bella's wing. Kate sprinted. She caught up just as he reached the base of the stairs. Without hesitation, she swung the candlestick. It connected with his shoulder. He stumbled forward, catching the railing before falling. He turned, fury finally breaking through the calm mask. "You have no idea what you've stepped into," he hissed. "Neither do you," she shot back. He advanced again. Kate backed up one step at a time. Another gunshot cracked from above. Voice. Canvas. Commanding. Furious. The sound cut through the chaos like a blade. Elias's expression shifted. Not fear, but urgency. His plan was unraveling faster than expected. He shoved past her and sprinted up the stairs. Kate followed, heart pounding in uneven rhythm. The second-floor hallway was filled with smoke and echoing footsteps. A guard lay unconscious near the nursery doors. The door to Bella's room stood open. Window shattered. Wind howling in from the balcony. Kate's breath caught. Roof access. Elias was heading upward. Toward open air. Toward leverage. And Kate understood in that moment. This wasn't about escape. It was about spectacle. It was about sending a message. And Bella was the message. She tightened her grip on the candlestick and ran. Behind her, the sound of boots thundered. Closer now. Faster. The house that had watched everything was no longer in control. The betrayal wasn't hidden anymore. It was standing in plain sight. And the roof was waiting. The rooftop door slammed open against the wind. Cold air tore across the stone surface, carrying smoke from below and the metallic scent of gunfire. Fog rolled low over the estate, swallowing the edges of the horizon. The world felt smaller up there, tighter, sharper, stripped of illusion. Elias stood near the ledge. Bella was in front of him. One arm hooked around her shoulders. The other hand pressed a gun against the side of her head. Her small coat flapped violently in the wind. "Stop right there," Elias shouted. Kate froze mid-step. Behind her, Dante emerged onto the roof. His movements controlled but electric with restrained violence. Blood streaked from a cut near his temple, but he didn't seem to feel it. The distance between them wasn't far. 10 feet. 10 impossible feet. "Let her go," Dante said, voice steady in a way that carried far more danger than rage. Elias laughed, though it lacked humor. "You should have died 10 years ago," he spat. "But you never see what's right in front of you, do you?" Dante didn't respond. He didn't blink. "I trusted you," Dante said finally. "And that was your mistake." Bella trembled, but she didn't cry. She stared at Kate. Not pleading. Trusting. That trust hit harder than the wind. "Drop your weapon," Elias demanded. Dante slowly lowered his gun to the ground. The metal clinked softly against stone. "You don't need her," Dante said. No, Elias replied coldly. But you do. Beat of silence. The fog thickened. Kate's mind sharpened. Fear receded. Clarity took its place. Elias's grip shifted slightly as the wind tugged at Bella's coat. His focus was locked entirely on Dante. He didn't see Kate angle sideways. He didn't see her toe brush against a loose piece of roof tile. You forgot something, Kate called out suddenly. Elias's eyes snapped toward her. That you're not the only one who can plan. His gun twitched in her direction instinctively. That fraction of movement was all Dante needed. He lunged. At the exact same moment, Kate kicked the loose tile hard across the rooftop. It skidded under Elias's heel. His footing faltered. The gun fired. The shot grazed Kate's shoulder, heat slicing through fabric and skin, but she didn't collapse. Dante collided with Elias in full force. Bella dropped to the rooftop, scrambling away on hands and knees. Kate rushed forward, pulling the child back from the chaos. Dante and Elias grappled near the edge. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't cinematic. It was brutal. Years of suppressed anger crashed into raw survival instinct. You killed her, Elias roared. You killed your own brother by choosing this path, Dante shot back, driving his fist into Elias's jaw. The struggle edged closer to the ledge. Wind howled around them. Elias managed to land a blow that staggered Dante back a step. For a split second it looked uncertain. Then Bella did something no one expected. She stood. Stop, she screamed. Her voice carried across the rooftop, cutting through the wind like a blade. Both men froze for a fraction of a second. It was the first time she had shouted since the bombing. The sound of her voice, clear, strong, alive, cracked something open. Dante seized the moment. He hooked his arm under Elias's shoulder, pivoted his weight, and drove forward with everything he had left. Elias stumbled backward. His heel hit open air. He grabbed desperately at Dante's jacket. For a breath, they balanced on the edge of consequence. Then fabric tore. Elias fell. His scream was short, cut off by gravity. The impact below echoed up the stone walls. Silence followed. Not dramatic, not triumphant, just real. Dante stood frozen for a second longer, chest rising and falling hard. Then he turned. Bella was already running toward him. Daddy! He dropped to his knees and caught her as she collided into his chest. Kate sank down beside them, shoulder burning but ignored. Bella cupped her father's face with both hands. You're safe, she said clearly. No whisper. No hesitation. If. The word echoed louder than the gunfire ever had. Dante pulled both Bella and Kate into his arms. For the first time since Kate had met him, he didn't look powerful. He looked human. Below, sirens approached. Not controlled. Not arranged. Real authorities responding to real violence. Dante released them slowly. It's over, he said. But he didn't mean just tonight. He meant the silence. The betrayal. The war inside his own walls. Weeks later, the headlines told a different story. Elias Vance wasn't buried quietly. He wasn't erased. Evidence surfaced. Meticulously documented security footage, financial records, communication logs tying him directly to the bombing years earlier and to the coup attempt at the estate. Dante didn't hide the truth. He handed it over. The district attorney built a case airtight enough that even influence couldn't distort it. Elias survived the fall. Barely. He spent months in a hospital bed under guard. Long enough to hear the charges read against him. Long enough to understand that power no longer shielded him. In court, stripped of authority, wearing a standard-issue suit instead of tactical black, he looked smaller. Bella testified. Not about the rooftop. About the drawing. About the hawk. About the man who told her to stay silent. Her voice didn't shake. The jury didn't hesitate. Multiple counts of conspiracy, attempted murder, and domestic terrorism. Life imprisonment. No parole. The gavel fell. For once, justice wasn't whispered. It was delivered. Spring came quietly to Highwood Manor. The security system remained. But the house no longer felt like it was holding its breath. Bella attended school again. She spoke in full sentences. She laughed. The surveillance room was dismantled. Monitors removed. Walls repainted. Trust didn't rebuild overnight. But it rebuilt. Kate stood in the sunroom one afternoon months later. Hands in soil again. Sunlight warmer this time. Dante joined her. "You could leave," he said quietly. "Is that what you want?" she asked. He shook his head. "No." Bella ran across the lawn outside, chasing a golden retriever that barked happily at nothing in particular. Life. Ordinary, messy, imperfect life. Kate looked at Dante. "You once said stepping into your world would test me. It did. And now." He met her eyes. "Now it belongs to all of us. Not ownership. Shared ground. Shared future." The rain that had once fallen like a warning now felt different when it came. Cleansing, not threatening. A single act of defiance in a diner had dismantled a betrayal that had poisoned a family for a decade. The man who tried to silence a child lost everything. The child who was told to stay quiet found her voice. And the waitress who refused to look away didn't just save a girl. She rewrote the ending. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive politely. Sometimes it stands up in the middle of a crowded room and says, "Not here. Not anymore." In the end, it wasn't the fall that changed everything. It was the voice. Months after the trial, when the courtroom doors finally closed and the headlines faded, Highwood Manor no longer felt like a fortress under siege. It felt lived in. Windows stayed open. Laughter traveled down hallways that once carried only silence. Bella didn't whisper anymore. She argued about homework, asked for second helpings at dinner, and filled entire rooms with questions no one ever tried to silence again. Kate understood something she hadn't that rainy morning in the diner. Strength wasn't about standing up once. It was about staying, when it would be easier to walk away, when fear would be reasonable, when the past still echoed in the walls. She hadn't saved a powerful man. She had protected a child who deserved to grow without shadows. And in doing that, she had rebuilt something in herself too. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Bella handed Kate a new drawing. 3 figures stood beneath an open sky, no flames, no darkness, just space. Above them, in careful letters, one word. Free. That was the real victory. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that courage can start in the smallest places, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most.